The story begins during the Joseon dynasty, where ancient records describe a strange red star appearing in the sky and remaining there for 2 full months. And soon after its appearance, famine and deadly diseases spread across the entire nation, making people believe that the heavens were sending a warning. Then we are introduced to Lady Kang Da-sim, the female lead, who is rising in power inside the royal palace. Although she was originally just a concubine, she was suddenly promoted to the powerful rank of royal consort Hui. Because of the disasters affecting the country, the government ministers become terrified and begin blaming Da-sim for heaven's anger, sending countless petitions to the king demanding her punishment. Soon, soldiers and royal officials gather at Injongmun Gate, where a royal edict is announced before everyone, accusing royal consort Hui of disrupting the royal hierarchy, committing adultery, and even attempting to assassinate the crown prince and consort Gyeong, leading to her being sentenced to death by poison. Despite this, Da-sim calmly completes her plum blossom painting, while palace maids beg her to come outside and accept the royal command. But she remains composed and instead admires the plum blossoms blooming in winter, saying that flowers blooming in harsh conditions are far more beautiful than those blooming peacefully in spring, showing that she sees herself as someone who survived through suffering. When she finally steps outside, she bitterly mocks the crowd for gathering like hungry dogs just to witness her downfall. While inside the palace, ministers discuss the situation with the king, with one claiming that the rot has been removed, while another warns that the people are still restless due to the famine and the strange star, and they demand the elimination of all her supporters as well, though the king hesitates, fearing another bloody massacre. Da-sim refuses to accept her execution peacefully and throws away the poisoned drink, angrily asking what her real crime is, questioning whether it is simply because she dared to rise above noble women despite being born with low status. And she boldly declares that if fighting to survive is a crime, then everyone in the palace is guilty of the same sin. When she throws away the poison again and demands to speak with the king, the officials lose patience and the guards forcibly try to make her drink it. At that exact moment, strange supernatural events begin to occur. As rain suddenly falls after a long drought, the sky turns dark and the sun disappears, making everyone believe the world is ending. Da-sim is forced to drink the poison and wonders if this is truly how her life ends. But instead of dying, she suddenly opens her eyes and becomes confused as the sun appears unnaturally close to her face, making her think she is hallucinating. Then suddenly, everything changes as someone yells, "Cut!" and modern cameras, lights, and staff appear, revealing that the entire execution was actually being filmed for a historical drama, and the stand-in actress Shin Seo-ri had been performing the scene. However, it becomes clear that the real Da-sim's consciousness has somehow entered Seo-ri's body. Completely confused, Da-sim looks around and cannot understand the modern world, noticing strange clothing, hairstyles, and behavior. And when filming resumes and she is called Royal Consort Hui of the Jang clan, she immediately becomes angry and corrects them, declaring she belongs to the Kang clan, shocking everyone with her intensity. She completely takes over the scene, speaking with authority, insulting the guards, and demanding respect as a senior first-rank royal consort. And her performance becomes so realistic and powerful that even the staff become nervous, while the main actress Yoon-ji grows jealous because a mere stand-in is stealing attention. The chaos escalates as Da-sim even physically fights the guards, showing incredible strength that no one can easily control. The story then shifts to the male lead, Cha Sa-gye, a ruthless businessman known as a terrifying third-generation chaebol heir, often described as a monster of capitalism. He is seen negotiating with another company's CEO, coldly threatening him to either hand over his company or watch it collapse through rumors and financial destruction. And during the negotiation, he keeps lowering the purchase price every few seconds, pushing the CEO into panic until he finally gives up and signs the contract. Even after winning, Sa-gye shows no sympathy and says the man deserved it for using cheap materials that harmed smaller subcontractors. At the same time, a rare solar eclipse begins along with the appearance of a comet that only returns every 300 years. After the meeting, Sa-gye learns about a deepfake video spreading online that falsely shows him abusing power. But instead of being angry, he is impressed by the advanced technology and decides he wants to meet the creators and buy their company, proving that he sees every problem as a business opportunity. Meanwhile, Da-sim wakes up fully in the modern world and begins wandering around in shock, realizing that she truly died in Joseon and woke up in another woman's body in the future, leaving her speechless. When Sori's friend Minji approaches her, Da-sim almost reveals the truth by saying she is from Joseon, but quickly stops herself, realizing no one would believe her, and instead she assumes that people around her are servants from some foreign land based on their clothing, which makes Minji even more worried about her mental state. Soon, a furious woman named Ms. Hong arrives and scolds her for causing trouble during filming, saying the production company is angry. But Da Sim responds with calm yet sharp words, saying although her situation is terrible, she is glad it appeared calm to others, which only irritates Ms. Hong more. And when Yoonji tries to calm things down, Da Sim insults her by calling her a wench, shocking everyone. Ms. Hong demands an apology, but Da Sim proudly refuses and tells them to control their own mouths instead of attacking her like wild animals, before walking away, leaving everyone stunned because the timid So-ri they knew would never behave like this, while Minji unexpectedly becomes inspired by her confidence. Then another strange moment occurs when a phone rings from Minji's pocket, and Da Sim becomes completely confused, unable to understand how sound is coming from clothing. Meanwhile, the story returns to Sa-gye, whose grandfather becomes furious after hearing about another scandal involving him. But Sa-gye complains that his grandfather constantly spies on him, while his assistant insists it is just concern, though Sa-gye disagrees. While driving, they get stuck in heavy traffic caused by the eclipse event, and Sa-gye sarcastically remarks that people are acting like they are living in the Joseon era. At the same time, Da Sim stands outside in the heat, noticing tools that resemble torture devices, and convincing herself that a rebellion must be happening, causing her to run through the modern city in panic, overwhelmed by towering buildings, strange clothing, and fast-moving cars, making Seoul feel like an impossible fantasy world to her. Suddenly, she collapses in the middle of the road right in front of Sa-gye's car, causing panic. But when she wakes up, she completely misunderstands the situation and believes she has fallen into hell. Sa-gye tries to calm things down while worrying about his reputation, but Da Sim becomes aggressive and runs onto the road again, almost getting hit by another car before Sa-gye pulls her to safety. Yet instead of thanking him, she verbally attacks him, calling him a shameless degenerate and questioning how he dares to speak so disrespectfully even in hell, leaving Sa-gye speechless as he assumes she is a scammer pretending to be insane to demand money. He casually offers her cash to settle the situation, but this only angers her further, and she accuses him of treating her like a greedy person before punching him, turning the situation into complete chaos as they begin physically fighting in the middle of the street while shocked bystanders watch. Sa-gye keeps insisting she is insane while Da Sim continues attacking him furiously, until he finally tries to end the situation by offering to pay all her hospital expenses and handing her his business card, though she does not understand such concepts. After he leaves, Da Sim secretly examines the card and learns his name. While back at the company, Mr. Sun warns Sa-gye that the strange woman may cause trouble and recalls a fortune teller's warning to stay away from women this year. But Sa-gye ignores it completely and casually tells him to handle everything if it escalates, showing that nothing truly concerns him. Meanwhile, Da Sim continues wandering through modern Seoul in complete confusion. She stares at signs written in Korean instead of Chinese characters and feels relieved that she at least learned the script during her lifetime. Otherwise, she would have become completely illiterate in this strange future world. As she keeps walking, everything overwhelms her, and she mutters in disbelief while struggling to understand modern life. Then she suddenly discovers something shocking. She enters a museum exhibition titled Time Travel to the Joseon Dynasty, where historical artifacts from her own era are displayed. The moment she sees a painting of plum blossoms in snow, she freezes completely. A guide explains that the painting is a national treasure from King Anjong's reign and was painted by Queen Anjong of the Mun clan. But Da Sim immediately becomes furious because she painted it herself. She argues with the guide, insisting the painting belongs to her, not the queen. But the guide calmly explains that according to the annals of the Joseon dynasty, it officially belongs to Queen Anjong. Hearing this devastates Da Sim. She then asks whether the annals mention royal consort Hui of the Kang clan. The guide recognizes the name but explains that she is remembered as a notorious villainess who was executed by poison, and because women's names were rarely preserved, almost nothing about her remains except terrible rumors. Then we see Da Sim slowly realizing the horrifying truth. After 500 years, the only thing left of her existence is the image of a wicked woman hated by everyone. The guide continues, saying she was blamed for disasters, corruption, and chaos in the palace. Every word cuts deeply into Da Sim's heart as she realizes that history completely erased her humanity, leaving only hatred behind. She understands that she no longer has a real name, identity, or dignity left, At that moment, she emotionally accepts that she truly died long ago. Suddenly, an eccentric woman approaches her excitedly and says she is writing a thesis about reinterpreting royal consort Hui. Thinking Dasim is just a passionate history fan, she starts discussing old rumors and unofficial records, saying Dasim once held power second only to the king, but also repeating all the cruel gossip about her. Hearing herself described as an evil, low-born woman who brought disaster completely crushes Dasim emotionally, and she wonders if this is punishment from heaven. Then another woman approaches and says she looks like a queen. As they sit together, Dasim shares what happened, and the woman surprisingly reveals that people from different eras sometimes appear in modern times. She treats time travel as something normal, mentioning stories of nobles traveling from ancient kingdoms. Dasim becomes furious hearing such ideas, but the woman calmly explains that this is not spirit possession but time wandering. She compares it to Zhuangzi dreaming he was a butterfly, which deeply affects Dasim. She realizes her life from centuries ago has now become nothing more than a forgotten story. The woman is amazed at how quickly Dasim understands such ideas. Meanwhile, the story shifts back to Sagye. After a meeting, his assistant mentions a ridiculous online rumor about how to date a chaebol heir. Find one, slap him, and then date him. Sagye laughs at the absurdity but suddenly remembers the crazy woman who punched him earlier. He immediately warns his assistant never to mention her again. Meanwhile, Dasim is overwhelmed by everything, and the emotional weight finally crashes down on her. She reflects on her past life, when she was powerful and admired in the palace, believing her glory would last forever. But now her entire life feels like a fleeting dream. She lost everything: her body, her name, and her reputation. She awakened in a world that feels neither heaven nor hell. At first, she believes this is punishment, but then something changes. As a sun shower begins, a radio explains it as a cloud crying while wishing happiness for someone it loves. Standing in the rain, Dasim slowly realizes something important. She is alive. No matter how miserable her situation is, she survived. Gradually, gratitude replaces her despair. She decides she will no longer see this life as punishment, but as rebirth, a second chance. She firmly declares that from now on, she will live as she pleases. As the rain stops and a rainbow appears, she pulls out Sagye's business card again and analyzes him. Although she finds him rude and arrogant, she notices that he looks like a man who has never bowed his head to anyone. In this unfamiliar world, she realizes she may need someone like him to survive. Then she quietly makes a decision. She will use Sagye as her sword and shield. Meanwhile, at Bioje, Sagye's grandfather suddenly arrives carrying a baseball bat, furious after seeing the viral scandal. He scolds Sagye for ruining the company's reputation again, but Sagye calmly explains that the video is fake and even says he wants to buy the company that created it. His grandfather cannot believe it and criticizes him for seeing everything as business. He also complains about Sagye's dating habits, saying he treats marriage like a business deal, which Sagye openly agrees with. During a meeting with a potential match, the woman admits she is willing to marry him to save her family business, but Sagye bluntly replies that women will line up to marry him after his success anyway. His grandfather calls him a hopeless money grubber, but Sagye does not care. Meanwhile, Dasim arrives at Bioje using the business card. Outside, she notices a casting call advertisement and realizes that powerful people still control everything, just like in Joseon. Inside, she almost introduces herself as Kang Dasim, but quickly says Sori instead. The receptionist mistakes her for an audition participant and sends her inside. Dasim simply accepts it. Meanwhile, Sagye refuses to personally observe the auditions, leaving it to his staff. Dasim sits among many contestants and becomes irritated after waiting for hours, comparing Sagye to a king who makes people wait endlessly. Then, actress Yoonji arrives, and everyone recognizes her. Seeing Sori, she mocks her for ruining her acting career and now chasing commercial work. But Dasim remains calm and says she came to ground herself properly, which irritates Yoonji even more. When warned about strong competition, Dasim casually says she only came to see a degenerate man. During the auditions, contestants are asked where they see themselves in 10 years. Most give ordinary answers, and Yoonji says she wants to become a good wife and mother. Dasim becomes disgusted and gives a bold speech, saying that living only to serve in a kitchen is a pathetic dream. She argues that women should pursue knowledge and rise to the top, shocking everyone. At that moment, Sagye suddenly enters the room. Dasim immediately calls him a scoundrel again, confusing everyone, but Sagye ignores her and continues. After the audition, Dasim follows him and proposes a deal, but he dismisses her, saying she has nothing valuable. She becomes offended and lectures him about leadership and compassion, but he ignores her and walks away. Furious, she follows him, calling out to him, but he coldly tells her to stop wasting time. As he heads toward his car, Da-sim suddenly senses danger. Her instincts from palace life activate and she grabs him, warning him not to enter because assassins are nearby. Everyone thinks she has lost her mind, and security restrains her while Sa-gye orders her removed. But suddenly, the sun disappears and darkness spreads across the sky as the same red star appears again after centuries. At that moment, Da-sim pulls Sa-gye toward her just before a dummy body crashes down onto his car from above, shocking everyone. Sa-gye stands there completely confused, unable to understand what just happened. Then we see a flashback and we see Da-sim's past inside the royal palace. Then we see her enjoying archery practice while admiring beautiful peonies blooming nearby. One servant carefully warns her not to shoot too recklessly because a stray arrow might destroy the flowers. Da-sim proudly says she personally cleared the land just to plant those peonies because she loves flowers with large, beautiful blossoms. Soon, the king arrives beside her. The king recites a romantic poem comparing a woman's beauty to peonies. Then he teasingly says he actually finds the flowers prettier than Da-sim herself. Instead of getting angry, Da-sim laughs warmly. It becomes clear that the king truly adored her once. Then we see palace maids arriving with medicine prepared by the royal infirmary. The king personally says he ordered a restorative tonic because Da-sim's health has recently worsened. But the moment Da-sim hears the word tonic, her expression changes completely. She suddenly remembers the poison she was forced to drink before her death. Immediately, fear overwhelms her. Then the story cuts back to the present. Da-sim suddenly wakes up after fainting during the attack near Sa-gye's car. Sa-gye's assistant was preparing to call an ambulance because they thought the shock was too much for her. Then we hear Da-sim's inner thoughts again. She becomes convinced that Sa-gye must be an incredibly important figure in modern society. After all, he has wealth, influence, handsome looks, and countless people serving under him. To her, he resembles a powerful, high-ranking minister from Joseon. Then Sa-gye questions her directly. He asks how she somehow knew a heavy mannequin would suddenly fall from above and nearly kill him. Da-sim confidently says her instincts are extremely sharp when it comes to danger. She explains that during her life in the palace, she survived countless poisoning attempts and assassination plots thanks to her instincts. Then she proudly reminds him that she literally saved his life. But instead of being grateful, Sa-gye becomes suspicious. He wonders whether she was secretly involved in the attack itself. Then, Da-sim immediately becomes offended. She proudly says she never schemes from the shadows like cowards. According to her, when she attacks someone, she does it openly. Her answer surprises Sa-gye, but he still remains unconvinced. He says it is too strange that she fainted in front of his car earlier and then conveniently saved him again later. But Da-sim refuses to back down. Then she tells him that even with all his wealth and power, his life still hangs by a fragile thread. According to her, riches and authority mean nothing if death can arrive at any moment. Then she boldly offers him a deal. If he keeps her by his side, she will protect his life. But he immediately throws her out of the company through his guards. Even while being restrained, Da-sim continues insulting him. She says he is too arrogant because of his pretty face and deserves punishment from heaven. Then, surprisingly, Mr. Sun politely apologizes to Da-sim and explains that Sa-gye can be unreasonable sometimes. Da-sim immediately agrees, calling him an impulsive fool. Then Mr. Sun drives her home. During the ride, Da-sim continues struggling to adapt to modern life. Inside the moving car, she compares it to a moving palanquin. Then she nervously asks Mr. Sun to slow down because she has never traveled so quickly before. When he tells her they are only driving at 60 kilometers per hour, she becomes even more shocked. Meanwhile, the story shifts to Sa-gye's family birthday gathering. Then we see Sa-gye's relatives trying desperately to impress the chairman with expensive gifts. One aunt brings seafood stew made from rare abalone flown in from Jeju Island. Another offers expensive wild mountain ginseng. Everyone competes to earn the chairman's favor. Then we learn an important part of the family's history. Years ago, the chairman desperately needed a liver transplant. While his own children hesitated, his nephew Chan immediately volunteered to donate part of his liver. Because of that, the chairman deeply treasures Chan even now. This explains why the family constantly compares Sa-gye to his cousin. Meanwhile, Da-sim finally arrives at Shin-so-ri's small home. The poor condition of the house shocks her. Coming from the royal palace, she cannot believe someone could live in such a tiny place. As she enters, Some neighbors mock her strange, noblewoman-like behavior, but Dasim proudly announces her arrival like royalty anyway. Then we see her meeting Sori's grandmother. Unlike everyone else, the grandmother treats her warmly and lovingly. She immediately prepares food and worries that Sori has not eaten properly all day. As Dasim watches the elderly woman's rough, worn-out hands, she quietly realizes how difficult her life must have been. For the first time since arriving in the future, Dasim experiences genuine family warmth. Then the grandmother secretly gives her high-quality beef and tells her to eat it alone. Dasim becomes touched by the kindness. As she finally eats properly, she honestly praises the food. The grandmother becomes overjoyed hearing the compliment. Then we see the family birthday dinner continuing at Sage's mansion. Once again, the relatives criticize Sage for the scandal surrounding the viral deepfake video. Some say that because Sage already has a terrible reputation, people will believe any rumor about him. Just then, Sage finally arrives at the party. He casually apologizes for being late due to car trouble, but the moment he enters, he immediately insults everyone at the table. He openly says he arrived late because he cannot stand fake loyalty and family arguments. Naturally, this enrages his grandfather again. Then, after dinner, Mr. Sun secretly reports to Sage that the attack earlier was definitely planned. CCTV footage confirms the attacker escaped using a getaway car. This means the incident was not random at all. Someone deliberately targeted Sage, and now Sage realizes Dasim's warning may have been real. Then his assistant suggests calling the police, but Sage says the attackers timed everything perfectly to damage his public image. To him, it feels like someone wanted to label him as an abusive CEO. Even so, he says there are too many people who would love to see him fail. According to him, his entire family is full of fake smiles and hidden greed. Meanwhile, we see Seori's grandmother leaving. She worries deeply and tells her not to dress so poorly because she deserves better. She also gives her some money to buy new clothes. She even says Seori should have at least one person by her side since she grew up without her parents' love. But then she says something that softens Seori's heart. She tells her she is proud of her, not for success, but for becoming kind despite hardships. For a moment, Seori becomes emotional. At the same time, Sage keeps thinking about her strange behavior. First, she fainted. Then she predicted the attack. Even though his assistant finds nothing suspicious, Sage still orders further investigation and tighter security. Then we see Sori entering her tiny rooftop room. The place is so small she compares it to a prison cell. She is horrified to learn some rooms do not even have windows. Soon, a neighbor angrily complains about her talking to herself at night, but Sori refuses to back down. Instead, she lectures him with old sayings and insults him, leaving everyone laughing and the neighbor humiliated. But later that night, Seori begins remembering painful memories from Joseon. We see flashes of palace servants bullying and humiliating Dasim when she was low-ranked. They locked her away while she screamed for help, until she eventually fainted. The memories become so vivid that she can barely sleep. Then Dasim finds Seori's diary. Then the story briefly shifts to Seori's real life. We see how lonely and unsuccessful she was. Although once a child actress, nobody recognizes her now. She survives through small jobs while chasing her dream of becoming a star. Despite her struggles, she still sends money to her grandmother. Later that night, Dasim reads the diary entries. They are full of hope, like, "You will become a star," and "I will give Grandma a good life." Seeing these innocent dreams deeply affects her. For the first time, she truly understands Sori's hardships. Then we see another emotional flashback from Joseon. Dasim remembers how women were expected to obey their father, husband, and son their entire lives. She remembers being told a woman without support might as well die, but this time she refuses to accept that fate. She declares that no matter how miserable life becomes, living is still better than dying. She decides she will survive and honor Seori by living boldly. The next morning, Seori catches a boarding house thief stealing side dishes again. This time, she exposes him publicly, and the residents cheer for her like a hero. Because of that, she suddenly becomes popular among the tenants. After that, the scene shifts. We see Sage meeting his friend Jung, who is also his doctor. While talking, Jung teases him about the mysterious woman who keeps appearing around him. Sage acts annoyed, but he cannot stop thinking about her either. Then we see Sori secretly watching videos online about royal consort Hui of the Kang clan. She becomes furious hearing modern people describe her past self as a manipulative, villainous, and gangster concubine. After that, we see when Sage comes to his office, Dasim is already waiting for him. As soon as she sees him, she brings up her proposal again. insisting that his life is still in danger and only she can protect him. But Sage dismisses everything as nonsense and accuses her of just wanting money. Still, Da-sim refuses to give up. She says she only needs enough money to survive for now. Then she boldly asks for 50 million won, leaving Sage completely speechless. After that, he refuses to give her even a single penny. Frustrated, Da-sim ends up hitting him, and eventually he has her thrown out of the company by his guards. Then we see Da-sim going back to the same shaman lady and explaining her situation. After that, she borrows some money from her. Then something unexpected happens. One of the drama clips featuring Da-sim as royal consort Hui suddenly goes viral online. In the scene, she fiercely shouts, "How dare you run your vile mouth before a senior first-rank royal consort?" Her intense acting turns into a huge meme, and people cannot stop sharing it. Soon, even Sage's company notices the trend. The marketing team suggests using Da-sim as the face of their new campaign because the public is obsessed with her. But the moment Sage hears her name, he immediately rejects the idea. Then he shuts down the proposal, saying they cannot rely on random viral trends and must follow a controlled strategy from the start. Meanwhile, Da-sim is wandering through the market, completely fascinated by modern food. Then she tastes sweet pastries and feels like she has reached heaven. After that, she tries ice cream and becomes even more shocked, saying such luxury would have been unimaginable in Joseon. For a moment, modern life feels like paradise to her, but then reality hits. After buying snacks non-stop, she realizes all her money is gone. Then she understands that surviving in this world requires money for everything, so she decides to find work. Then we see Da-sim confidently entering a cafe hiring part-timers. The manager asks about her experience, and she proudly says she once commanded hundreds of palace women. But things quickly turn chaotic when she starts talking about punishments and assassins. The terrified manager immediately throws her out. Even after being rejected, Da-sim does not lose confidence. She believes someone like her will eventually find the right opportunity. At the same time, people in the advertising industry continue discussing the viral royal consort Hui meme. Everyone sees her potential, but Sage still refuses to admit it. Meanwhile, Da-sim runs into the same annoying tenant, Dong. The two start arguing again, but then Dong suddenly drags her to a strange part-time job. Then we see Da-sim sitting inside a live shopping broadcast studio, completely confused. The hosts are selling spicy chicken while people eat on camera. Da-sim is shocked to learn that people get paid to eat food. Even while working, she keeps arguing with Dong, but their chemistry becomes strangely funny. Then the story shifts back to Sage's company. The staff reports that Da-sim has stayed at the top of search rankings for 2 weeks. What started as a meme is now a nationwide trend. At this point, even Sage cannot ignore it anymore. Then he finally orders his team to find Da-sim before another company signs her. Meanwhile, Da-sim unknowingly becomes an even bigger sensation. Then we see a montage of her dominating live broadcasts. First, she sells kitchen knives while speaking like a royal noble, and everything sells out instantly. After that, she promotes Chinese study books using philosophical wisdom, and once again, everything sells out. Without realizing it, she becomes a natural sales queen. Then she continues dominating live shopping. While promoting study materials, she proudly says her knowledge has finally become useful. Her dramatic delivery makes viewers laugh, and the products sell out again. After that, she promotes an energy drink, shouting like a commander leading troops into battle. Her confidence drives viewers crazy, and the drink sells out within minutes. The staff are left shocked, unable to understand where she came from. At the same time, Sage's company is desperately trying to contact her. Mr. Sun searches everywhere, while Sage pressures him to secure her contract immediately. Meanwhile, Da-sim's confidence grows. During another broadcast, when asked to stay longer, she initially refuses. But when offered more money, she negotiates boldly and demands 7 times the pay. Surprisingly, the staff agree because she keeps selling out products. Later, she appears promoting black goat extract. Since she has not eaten properly, she becomes secretly excited. The hosts introduce her as the mukbang goddess and ask her to drink it. But the moment she is about to take a sip, traumatic memories from her past life suddenly return. She remembers being forced to drink poison. Then the trauma overwhelms her, and she spits the drink out on live television. The studio falls into chaos. The staff scream at her, accusing her of ruining everything. But while they shout, Da-sim begins seeing painful flashes from her past. Hearing people call her a villainess again, she finally explodes. Then she screams back at them, calling them shameless, and storms out of the studio. Right then, Sagye finally finds her. When he approaches, Dasim becomes suspicious and questions why he is suddenly interested after rejecting her before. Sagye tells her he has something important to say and asks her to come with him. But before he can explain, Dasim suddenly sees Chan approaching. Immediately, she becomes terrified and runs toward the terrace. Sagye follows her. Then, seeing Chan triggers another memory. She recalls the moment a sword was held to her throat and realizes it was the king himself. The memory shocks her so deeply that she begins seeing Chan as the king from her past. Completely shaken, she wonders if she is hallucinating again. Then finally, Sagye reveals his true intention. He offers her an official contract. Dasim is stunned because this is the same man who once said she had nothing valuable. But Sagye calmly admits he was wrong. He now realizes she has exactly what his company needs. And according to him, she also needs him. But before they can continue, Chan suddenly appears looking for Sagye. The moment Dasim sees him again, she panics. Then she grabs Sagye and desperately asks him to become her shield for a moment. Sagye is left completely confused. Then we see the same flashback again. Dasim is locked inside a wooden box by the palace maids, and they leave her there alone. Then, hearing her desperate screaming, a nobleman who was sleeping nearby suddenly wakes up. His face looks strangely similar to Sagye. He quickly walks toward the box and opens it, helping Dasim out. Dasim is completely shocked to see him, because she did not expect anyone to come for her. Then the scene shifts. It is night, and Dasim is still furious after being humiliated and bullied by the palace maids. Because of this, she secretly begins planning revenge. She says only fear and pain will teach them a lesson, and she promises herself that she will make them suffer for everything they did to her. After that, a mysterious person sneaks into the crown prince's room and attempts to kill him. But the crown prince is not there at that exact moment. Then, just as he returns, he catches the intruder. However, before he can question him, the assassin suddenly kills himself. Then, when the crown prince comes outside, he spots Dasim there, even though she is not supposed to be in that place. Without hesitation, he shoots an arrow toward her, and she falls down in shock. He immediately appears in front of her, points a sword at her, and warns her not to move if she wants to live. He assumes she is a spy because assassins are nearby. He demands to know who sent her. Terrified, Dasim falls to her knees and begs for her life. She insists that no one sent her and she only came to take revenge on the palace maids who mistreated her. At first, he does not believe her. He thinks a simple palace maid could never enter such a dangerous area alone. But then he looks closely at her face and suddenly recognizes her. She is the same girl he once helped during a palace event. His expression softens slightly, and he decides not to kill her. Dasim feels relieved and thanks him sincerely for sparing her life. She politely asks for his name, but he refuses to reveal it. Before they can talk further, danger appears again. More assassins are still lurking in the darkness. Dasim suddenly notices an incoming attack and warns him just in time. They narrowly escape death together. Then he tells her to return to her quarters safely because enemies are still nearby. Before leaving, Dasim tells him to stay safe as well. Then the story returns to the present. Dasim is holding Sagye tightly, using him as a shield from Chan. She is completely shocked because Chan's face looks exactly like the king from her Joseon memories. Sagye is confused and embarrassed, while Chan misunderstands the situation completely and assumes they are dating. Sagye immediately denies it and says he does not even know Dasim, but Chan does not believe him. The situation becomes more awkward as Dasim refuses to let go of Sagye. Eventually, Chan leaves, telling Sagye to meet him later. After the chaos settles, Sagye angrily asks Dasim what is wrong with her and says she made him look like a fool in front of everyone. But Dasim fires back, reminding him that he was the one who grabbed her first when danger appeared. They begin arguing again. Then Dasim calls him a degenerate, while Sagye sarcastically jokes that women cannot resist his handsome face. Dasim is disgusted, and their argument continues until staff members suddenly appear again, chasing her for the live streaming job. Dasim quickly tells Sagye to pretend she has fainted and carry her away. Sagye refuses at first and calls her insane, but just as the staff approaches, Dasim suddenly collapses on the ground. Sagye immediately panics and pretends she is unconscious. He shouts for help, calls an ambulance, and carries her out of the company. After leaving, he places her on a bench and continues acting worried until they are safely outside. Then Dasim suddenly wakes up and proudly praises him for reacting quickly. Sagye becomes even more annoyed, but Dasim says survival is more important than pride. During their conversation, she asks about Chan again. Sagye coldly replies that they are worse than strangers. Then Dasim decides she will follow Sa-gye for now, because she has nowhere else to go in this unfamiliar world. Sa-gye is frustrated but has no choice but to tolerate her presence. Inside the car, Dasim is amazed by everything and calls it an iron palanquin. She becomes carsick soon after and complains about her stomach. Sa-gye warns her not to throw up in his car, and they continue arguing non-stop. At a gas station, Sa-gye secretly buys medicine for her, even though he pretends not to care. Dasim continues exploring modern life in shock, amazed by simple things like screens, advertisements, and automatic doors. Then, Dasim notices a news article about President Chan. She becomes startled because his face resembles people from her Joseon memories. She begins to suspect a deeper connection between her past and the present world. After that, the gas station worker mistakenly gives Dasim Sa-gye's payment card, thinking she is his girlfriend. When Sa-gye returns, he cannot find her and becomes furious after learning she already left using his card. Meanwhile, a major corporate scandal begins unfolding. Kaiserman Capital is revealed to be secretly linked with Chil EC and President Chan. Panic spreads inside the company as emergency meetings are called. Then, Sa-gye learns the truth that Chan, his cousin, is behind everything. He realizes he has been trapped. If the stock price falls, Chan could gain control of the company and take everything from him. Sa-gye immediately goes to confront Chan. Chan acts calm and arrogant, saying he only made a smart investment, but Sa-gye knows it is a setup. They argue fiercely, and Chan insults him, saying he will never succeed without family support. Then Chan reminds him to keep up appearances in front of their grandfather. This hits Sa-gye deeply, and we see a flashback from his childhood, where Chan once appeared kind but later betrayed him, leading to his grandfather blaming Sa-gye unfairly. Back in the present, Sa-gye decides to speed up the company launch instead of withdrawing funds. Meanwhile, he secretly thinks about Dasim, showing he is still worried about her despite acting cold. Dasim, on the other hand, is happily enjoying street food and using Sa-gye's card freely, completely unaware of the chaos around her. She treats the card like a magical object and keeps spending without hesitation. At the same time, Dong goes through a painful breakup when his girlfriend leaves him for another man. He is heartbroken and realizes he was never truly valued. Later, Sa-gye finds out Dasim has been using his card everywhere. He rushes to stop it, but she has already returned to her poor neighborhood. He follows her there and is shocked by how badly she lives. Then Sa-gye arrives at her home and waits outside. When Dasim returns, she is surprised to see him and asks why he is there so late. She teasingly says he must have some kindness inside him since he worried about her. Sa-gye denies it immediately and insults her again, but Dasim notices he still came anyway. They argue about the contract again, and Sa-gye calls her a triple non-threat, meaning she has no money, fame, or success. Even after that, Dasim stands firm. Then Sa-gye demands his card back. Dasim becomes amazed by its value and realizes only important people can own such a thing. But when Sa-gye notices she has barely any food, instead of scolding her, he unexpectedly takes her out for Korean barbecue. Then we see the two of them sitting together, grilling meat. At first, they continue arguing and throwing small insults at each other, but slowly the atmosphere begins to soften. Then, after tasting the expensive beef, Dasim suddenly becomes emotional. She happily says it must be destiny because earlier that day she wished to eat beef, and somehow it still found its way to her. Sa-gye laughs at her ridiculous logic. Then he jokingly asks if that means he himself is her destiny too. But Dasim completely ignores the romantic meaning behind his words and continues eating without hesitation. Then the conversation becomes even funnier when Dasim struggles to understand modern English words like romance. Sa-gye teases her again, saying she really behaves like a woman from the Joseon era. Of course, he has no idea that he is actually speaking the truth. As the meal continues, both of them slowly become more comfortable around each other. After that, when the bill arrives, Sa-gye is completely shocked by how much Dasim has eaten. He jokes that her eating ability is unbelievable and says it looks like she swallowed an entire cow by herself. But Dasim immediately denies it and proudly lists every single cut of meat she consumed as if it were completely normal. Then she even explains how much she enjoyed the intestines at the end, saying they tasted far better than she expected. Coming from the Joseon era, she says poor people could never even dream of eating such food, so experiencing it now feels like discovering a whole new world. Then Sagye quietly notices that she no longer looks sick like before. He asks if her stomach feels better now, but Dasim casually replies that she was perfectly fine all along. At that moment, Sagye realizes she tricked him again. Then Dasim teasingly points out that he was worried about her once more. Of course, Sagye immediately denies it and claims he only cares about himself, but Dasim clearly sees through him. Then we see Sagye dropping Dasim off. Even while acting cold, he still tells her to stop wasting money on junk food and suggests she should sell her expensive designer bag if she is really struggling. Then Dasim secretly smiles, realizing that he worries about people more than he admits. Meanwhile, Sagye drives away while trying to convince himself that he does not care about her at all. But then, romantic songs begin playing on the radio, talking about love, destiny, and falling at first sight. Then, no matter how many channels he changes, the same kind of songs keep playing. He becomes increasingly annoyed, but it only makes him think about Dasim even more. Then he remembers her words about destiny and immediately tries to push those thoughts away. At the same time, Dasim sits alone and starts thinking deeply about the word romance. Earlier, Sagye mocked her for not understanding it. Then, out of curiosity, she secretly looks up the meaning online and learns that it refers to love between a man and a woman. Even after reading it, she pretends it is nothing important, but clearly the idea begins lingering in her mind. Then the story shifts back to the Joseon era through another memory. Dasim is officially assigned to serve inside the Crown Prince's quarters. When she enters, the prince coldly orders her to lift her head and criticizes her for lacking awareness. Then he explains that people in the palace fear him because of rumors, calling him the Ghost Prince and Goblin Prince due to his damaged eye and mysterious personality. Then he directly asks Dasim if she is afraid of him. But Dasim honestly replies that she is not afraid because he once saved her life. The prince becomes slightly surprised by her boldness. In such a strict palace, speaking so freely could easily lead to punishment. Still, despite his harsh tone, he seems strangely interested in her. Then he asks for her name, and she properly introduces herself as Shin Dasim. Then the story returns to the present. Sagye begins having strange dreams connected to the Joseon era. Confused, he visits his doctor and asks what it means when someone cries in their sleep. The doctor jokingly says it is usually because of money problems or first love. The moment he mentions first love, Sagye becomes defensive. Then the doctor continues teasing him and even mentions the possibility of past life connections. Although Sagye laughs it off, the idea clearly unsettles him. After that, the doctor gives more serious advice, saying such dreams may be a sign that someone needs to stop endlessly running on the same exhausting path. But Sagye refuses to accept that he has changed at all. Then we see another misunderstanding forming. Chan casually tells the grandfather that Sagye seems to have a woman in his life. This immediately shocks him because Sagye normally keeps everyone at a distance. Meanwhile, Dasim starts working part-time at a dumpling restaurant with Dong. But instead of properly working, she keeps eating most of the dumplings herself. The manager becomes furious after realizing half the food has disappeared into her stomach. Even then, Dasim proudly claims she was only testing the food quality. At the same time, Sagye arrives at his office, where his assistant questions why he personally went to retrieve his credit card instead of simply canceling it. Sagye awkwardly replies that it was just because it was his favorite card, but the assistant clearly does not believe him. Then we see a famous actress named Yoonji appearing on television. While watching her, Dasim quietly insults her, but a random fan nearby misunderstands and assumes Dasim admires her. The fan explains that being a fan means supporting someone deeply and wishing for their success. Those words unexpectedly make Dasim pause and think. Then the story shifts to Bioj Company, where executives are discussing the launch of their new cosmetic brand, Dynasty. This project is extremely important for the company's future. Soon, a heated debate begins. Some executives insist on choosing the famous actress Yoonji, while others argue that Dasim's fresh and viral popularity would create a stronger impact. Then the argument intensifies, and the room splits into two sides. Half the company supports Yoonji, while the other half supports Dasim. Finally, after voting, Sagye makes the final decision. He officially announces that Dasim will become the face of the campaign. Meanwhile, Dasim experiences emotional memories from Sori's past. Then we see flashes of a lonely child who was abandoned and forgotten by everyone. That child is Sori. She was once a talented child actress, But after disappearing, nobody remembered her anymore. Back in the present, people slowly begin recognizing her face again on television. At the same time, Dasim becomes fascinated by acting. She realizes actors can make people laugh, cry, and remember them forever. That realization deeply moves her. Then new problems arise. Seo-gye discovers that Dasim is still technically under contract with her old agency. Even though they previously ignored her, they now refuse to let her go after seeing her sudden value. Seo-gye becomes irritated that such a small agency is interfering. Meanwhile, Yoonji feels deeply insulted after losing to Dasim. She cannot accept that an unknown actress defeated her. Miss Hong tries to calm her down, but Yoonji still feels threatened. Back at the boarding house, Dasim finally understands Sori's true dream. She realizes the original owner of the body desperately wanted to become a successful actress. Then Dasim quietly promises that she will fulfill that dream. Because of that, she finally decides to accept Seo-gye's contract. Then we see Dasim calling Seo-gye. He instantly recognizes her voice, which surprises him. Dasim proudly announces that she has accepted his offer after carefully considering his sincerity and the Korean beef he bought her. Seo-gye tries to stop her, saying the situation is complicated, but Dasim refuses to listen and says she is already on her way. When Seo-gye hears she is already outside, he panics. Meanwhile, Dasim confidently arrives at Byo-jae's office and tells everyone that the CEO personally begged her to sign a contract. The staff find her strange but charming. Then suddenly, danger appears again. Miss Hong arrives with Yoonji and blocks her path. She coldly questions whether Dasim thinks she can sign such a contract without permission. Dasim calmly replies that she sees no reason why she cannot. Then the argument escalates quickly. Miss Hong grabs her aggressively and threatens her. But Dasim is no longer weak. She warns her to let go. When no one takes her seriously, she suddenly bites Miss Hong's hand. Then, when Yoonji steps in, Dasim slaps her across the face. Everyone is completely shocked. Then chaos breaks out as both women start slapping each other non-stop. Finally, Seo-gye steps in and orders everyone to stop. Yoonji immediately begins acting like a victim, while Miss Hong blames everything on Dasim. But Seo-gye takes Dasim's side. Miss Hong angrily demands to know who he is. Then Seo-gye formally introduces himself as the CEO of Byo-jae Entertainment and declares that Dasim now belongs to his agency. Everyone becomes stunned. Then Seo-gye extends his hand for a handshake. Dasim looks at him suspiciously but eventually copies the modern custom. They officially finalize the contract. Still, Dasim secretly thinks that Seo-gye looks like a handsome lunatic because he keeps smiling at her. Then we see Cha Seo-gye stepping forward and completely taking control of the situation after the chaotic fight between Dasim and Yoonji. The entire room is still tense, but Seo-gye remains calm as if nothing unusual has happened. He confidently declares that he can simply buy the entire agency with pocket money, shocking everyone present. Meanwhile, his assistant Mr. Sun immediately realizes what is happening and lets out a quiet sigh, because once again Seo-gye has made a reckless business decision without informing anyone beforehand. Still, Seo-gye shows no hesitation. He casually tells Mr. Sun to clean up the mess while proudly stating that he has already made the agency an offer they cannot refuse. Then, after that, we see Dasim standing there quietly, watching Seo-gye with suspicion. She cannot understand why this man keeps smiling so confidently in every situation. To someone from the Joseon era, his playful and relaxed attitude feels strange and almost irresponsible. Then Seo-gye notices her swollen red face from the earlier slap fight. Without saying much, he takes her to his cabin and hands her a cold drink. However, Dasim immediately misunderstands his intention. Instead of using it properly, she becomes suspicious and starts questioning what kind of scheme he is planning now. After that, Seo-gye gets slightly annoyed and explains that the contract situation is far more complicated than she thinks. But Dasim still refuses to trust him blindly. Then Seo-gye bluntly explains his business philosophy. He says that the first rule of investment is to buy something when everyone fears it and sell it once it becomes valuable. In his eyes, Dasim is simply an investment at her lowest point. Hearing this, Dasim becomes completely shocked. For a moment, she honestly believes he is talking about selling her like a person. But Seo-gye quickly corrects her and clarifies that he is referring to her acting potential. The moment she understands this, her entire mood changes. She proudly says he could have just admitted from the start that he recognized her talent. Then, after that, Dasim suddenly begins analyzing Seo-gye himself. She complains that his personality has become twisted because he spends too much time indoors without sunlight. Before he can react, she walks over and throws open the curtains, letting bright sunlight flood the entire office. She explains that humans need open skies and natural light to maintain a healthy spirit. Sagye stands there speechless, completely caught off guard by her strange behavior. Then, Dasim casually mentions that some people live in rooms without proper windows. Compared to them, he should be grateful. That simple statement unexpectedly stays in Sagye's mind long after she leaves. Meanwhile, after she walks out, Sagye notices her swollen face again and realizes she misunderstood his gesture earlier. He had given her the cold drink to reduce swelling, not to drink. For the first time, he admits to himself that Dasim is starting to affect him emotionally. But immediately he panics and starts questioning whether something is wrong with him. The doctor's earlier words about love echo in his mind, and he quickly denies everything. According to him, there is absolutely no way he could fall for someone like Dasim. Unfortunately for him, Mr. Sun overhears part of this and clearly does not believe a single word. Then we see Dasim walking home late at night. A stray dog begins following her from behind. At first, she tries pushing it away, saying they are alike, both unwanted and struggling to survive. But no matter how much she tries to chase it off, the dog keeps following her loyally. Meanwhile, at the boarding house, Dasim starts thinking deeply about modern fan culture. After hearing that fans support someone quietly and care for them from afar, she suddenly becomes convinced that Sagye must be her fan. In her mind, the Korean beef dinner was not kindness. It was a tribute from an admirer. The more she thinks about it, the more convinced she becomes. She even begins wondering what kind of gift she should give him in return. At the same time, Sagye's company officially decides to acquire Dasim's agency. Her popularity is rising rapidly, and they believe she could become extremely valuable. However, financial problems from the Kaiserman issue continue to create pressure. Then Sagye visits his grandfather to request financial support using his trust fund. The grandfather immediately understands his intentions, but still teases him before agreeing to listen. After that, we see something interesting. The grandfather ends up at a crowded restaurant where he meets Dasim by coincidence. She refuses to share her table at first, but the moment he offers to pay, she instantly agrees. Then she shamelessly orders extra food, assuming a wealthy man should naturally cover everything. Instead of getting angry, the grandfather finds her amusing. Meanwhile, Sagye quietly asks Mr. Sun whether people really live in windowless rooms. Hearing the truth, he begins to understand how difficult Dasim's life actually is. Then, after that, we see Dasim returning home with food and bones for the stray dog. She tries to ignore it, but eventually gives in and decides to take care of it. However, when she hears the landlord threatening stray animals, her expression changes. She quietly decides to help the dog survive. Soon after, the story shifts to the police station, where Dasim is sitting with the dog beside her, caught in a dispute with a broadcast staff member. The situation becomes messy, with both sides accusing each other. Then suddenly, Sagye arrives. He calmly handles everything, using legal pressure to flip the situation completely in Dasim's favor. Watching this, Dasim becomes convinced he came because he was worried about her. Of course, Sagye denies it immediately. Then comes a funny twist. Since Dasim believes he is her fan, she decides to give him a gift. Before he can react, she hands him the stray dog. Sagye is horrified and reveals he is allergic, but she ignores him and leaves happily. After that, we see Sagye struggling at home with the dog. It sheds fur everywhere, refuses to stay quiet, and causes his allergies to worsen. He tries to get rid of it, but keeps imagining Dasim's reaction, so he hesitates. Meanwhile, Dasim continues working and eventually gets cast in a drama. She begins taking acting seriously and promises to fulfill Sori's dream. Then she writes a handwritten letter to Sagye as a gift. Finally, at night, Sagye reads the letter. It is written in poetic classical style. To Dasim, it is simply gratitude. But to Sagye, it sounds like a romantic confession. When he sees the sketch labeled "My Amazing Fan," he misreads it as "My Amazing Man." At that moment, he becomes completely convinced that Dasim has fallen in love with him. And with that misunderstanding, the story reaches a very interesting turning point, leaving us wondering what will happen next.